constant farting and burping. Normal bodily functions, but lack of manners. I love the way this one's written.
Are we sure that Vanessa didn't send this one in?
Hello and welcome to the Pillow Talks podcast. We're your hosts, Vanessa
and Xander Marin.
I'm a sex therapist with over 20 years of experience.
And I'm just a regular dude. We share the ups and downs in our relationship while giving you step-by-step techniques for improving yours.
Make sure you subscribe for your weekly double date full of totally doable sex tips, practical relationship advice, hilarious and honest stories of what really goes on behind closed bedroom doors, and so much more. It's the sex education you wish you'd had. So what have I done to annoy you today?
Oh, let's see. I know better than to answer that question. Come on now.
This question traces back to, I don't know if I've shared this story on the podcast yet, but there was a time early in our relationship where I asked Xander, I thought I was being really cute, and I was asking him, like, how often do I annoy you? And I thought that he was going to be like, oh, you never annoy me. Like, I love you so much. So I was being all cute and coy and flirty.
You're just a perfect little partner.
Exactly. And he looked at me very seriously, very thoughtfully, and said, probably about once a day. And then my heart broke. Thinking about annoying you once every single day. I haven't had my time of the day yet. I've still got one coming up, right?
Yeah, sure. There's one annoyance left to be had. One future annoyance.
Well, today we're going to be talking about annoyances in relationships, minor annoyances, but also some really big ones.
Oh, yeah.
And we have an interesting theme for this episode today. We're kind of calling it, is this your shit or mine? Because I think we all have aspects of our relationship or things about our partner that we wish were different. Maybe they annoy us. Maybe they outright enrage us. You know, there's always going to be something that we wish was different about our partner or our relationship, but sometimes it can be kind of confusing to figure out how to think about these things. Like, is Xander annoyed by me, by all these things that I do every day, and that means that I need to change all of these things so that I never annoy him? Or are Xander's annoyances, do they have more to do with him? And it's something that, like, he has to get over or work through on his own. It can be really tricky sometimes to identify what's what.
Yeah, so, like, is it my shit to just deal with it myself? Or is it Vanessa's shit to change so that she can be perfect for me?
The perfect partner. So we went over to Instagram for this episode and we asked people to share examples of this with us. We said, you know, what's something about your partner or your relationship that bothers you and you're just not quite sure how to think about this? What do you make out of all of this? So we've got a ton of examples. We got a lot of examples that were sent in. You guys were very excited to talk about this topic. So we picked some of the ones that we thought were the most interesting, but we haven't talked about any of them together. So we just identified, do we think we could talk about this one? Is it interesting? But we didn't give our opinions on it. So as we go through, this will be like the first time that we're actually talking through, do we think this is partner A's issue or partner B's issue? Maybe somewhere in between. So
somewhere in between is an option. I didn't realize that. I thought we were trying as hard as we could to make it your shit or my shit. But,
I mean, we'll try, but you know, sometimes shit is just shit.
That's good, because I do remember reading some of them and thinking, well, I can kind of see it being shit everywhere.
Shit everywhere. That's what we'll call this episode. The shit everywhere episode.
All right, but let's get into a little bit of our shit here, which is our review of the week, if that works at all. I was trying to think of a great segue, and
sure.
I think I maybe nailed it with the shit. All right, here we go. This one is entitled "Happy Birthday to Me." Wow. All right.
Where's this one going to go?
Coming in strong with the title game. Okay. My new husband and I have been together almost 20... Wait, did I just say my new husband?
Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
Wow, that was a Freudian slip, because my husband and I have been together almost 20 years. We've always been happy, but a child and growing our careers made our sex life a little vanilla. Your podcast made us think about our sex life for the first time, and wow, mind blown emoji, fire 100 emoji. We have had the best, most connected sex we've had in years since listening to your podcast. We both listen, and I love that it gives us something to talk about and apply in the bedroom. We love you guys and can't wait for more and more content.
Wait, where does the birthday thing tie into it, though?
I think what it is like our podcast is a gift to this person. So every single Thursday, this person is like, happy birthday to me.
I don't understand. This is a great review. Thank you for this review, but I would really love for you to reach out to us and explain happy birthday to me.
Explain yourself.
I want to know what it means. Yes, thank you for this review. Reviews mean so much to the podcast. It is seriously like the only way that we can grow and reach more couples. So we would greatly appreciate it if you like this episode, if you've liked any of our previous episodes, if you could just go over to Apple Podcasts and leave a quick review. It doesn't have to be detailed or elaborate, but you can leave some fun emojis for Xander to try to interpret, or you can leave him a riddle. I think we had riddles last time.
Sure. Why not?
And
leave me whatever you think is going to stump me.
We will enter you into a giveaway going forward. So every single week we pick a review of the week. If you're the winner, you can DM us on Instagram at Vanessa Marin Therapy, ask us a question, and we will give you a free mini personalized coaching session.
Yeah, so this person, not only do they have to DM us and send us their question, they also need to explain themselves.
Explain yourself.
They need to, we need like a screenshot of your ID so we can see when your birthday is to make sure it really lines up with the review date. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
We don't need that.
All right, so let's get into the shit. Are you ready to deal with the shit?
Yeah, let's just wade into this shit.
You got your shit shovel?
I got my shit shoes on.
Shit shoes. I picked this first one because I relate to it. Okay, this person says, I have so much trouble falling asleep when my husband isn't in bed with me. I feel like my sleep would improve a ton if he would come to bed earlier with me, but he is very resistant to the idea. He also struggles with insomnia, and getting in bed before he's actually tired is a big trigger for him. There's a second part of this, which I left out. We'll talk about it separately, but What do you think? Is this their issue or is this their husband's issue?
I'm going to say this is their issue. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that this is their shit. The person asking the question. I think that when it comes to sleep, it sounds like they each have their own issues when it comes to sleep. This person is struggling to fall asleep. Their husband also is struggling to fall asleep. He has insomnia. And so for him getting in bed when he's not already feeling tired, sounds like it worsens the insomnia. So it's kind of like, as of right now, it seems like a kind of lose-lose. Like one person is losing if he gets into bed early and one person is losing if he doesn't get into bed early. I think that it kind of is the question asker's shit in that the person asking the question has this idea in their head of, well, the only way I'm going to be able to fall asleep is if my husband is in bed with me when I want to go to bed. They have this fantasy of the only way that it can work. And I think that it's probably time for this person to start brainstorming alternative options for how they can ensure that they get the sleep that they need.
Oof. Yeah, I agree with you. I think, and I forgot, we confirmed that this is a woman. I think this is her shit. And it sucks because I think for the majority of our relationship, I have operated in the same way. Like, it's a lot harder for me to fall asleep without you there. I think lately I've gotten a little bit better about it, but yeah, I just sleep so much better when you're there. And in particular, I sleep so much better if I can fall asleep first.
Oh, yes.
If you fall asleep first, I get so frustrated and annoyed, and sometimes it's hard for me to fall asleep. So I really relate to this, that you just like want that comfort of your partner being there. But I don't think it's a fair thing to ask your partner, and especially like you were pointing out, Xander, that the husband is also struggling with insomnia. Getting into bed before he's tired is a big trigger for him. Like, I don't think it's a fair ask to ask him to compromise his own sleep. Like, sleep is so delicate for all of us. So yeah. I do think that she has to figure out ways to, optimize her own sleep.
Yeah, I mean, just an idea there, because I can imagine if I put myself in her shoes, she's probably thinking, okay, well, yeah, but then like when he comes to bed later, he wakes me up anyway, and then I'm awake. So it's like, maybe you got to think outside the box a little bit. Like, maybe given your different schedules and different needs, like maybe you need to sleep in different rooms if that's an option. Like, I think a lot of people assume that you only sleep in separate beds if there's a marital issue or you're not having sex or something like that. But tons of people have alternate sleeping arrangements to facilitate their sleep schedules. And I think when we get stuck in, oh, it has to be this one way, that's when we really start getting into these problems of, just being like, I can't solve this problem, because you're not allowing yourself to consider the more out of the box solutions.
Okay, so here's the wrinkle with this one, though.
All right, let's go.
She says, oh, and also I'm pregnant, which kind of makes me feel like he should be more willing to compromise in my direction. So when I read that, I do think, like, if one partner is pregnant, they're the only person who can do that work. Like, that's a tremendous amount of work. Being pregnant, birthing a child, that's a lot. Not that relationships are ever going to be, like, completely fair. There's literally no way for you to figure out how to make your partner do all the work that matches up for you being pregnant and carrying your child. But I do think, like, maybe if this is kind of related to, her ability to get good sleep for her and for the baby, that maybe that pushes me a little bit more towards, like, could the husband compromise every once in a while? So that got me thinking, it sounds like for him, getting into bed before he's tired is a big deal. For her, it sounds like she's going to bed earlier than he is. So maybe is there a way to compromise a couple of nights a week where, maybe he comes to bed earlier with her, or maybe the compromise
maybe
is
he just reads in bed for a while.
He reads in bed. Could it be that he's just sitting in the room? Maybe if they have, like, a chair or something like that, or even could she compromise and stay up a little bit later so that he doesn't have to go to bed until he's tired? So there is a little bit of flexibility there. But I think the pregnancy makes it a touch more complicated.
I do wonder, though, is this a scenario, though, where this person has had this issue with their husband way before them being pregnant?
Yeah,
they
for
didn't
sure.
say this
For
issue
sure she
only
did.
cropped up once I got pregnant. Is this person just kind of waiting to make this request until they are pregnant and being like, well, now you should really side with me more because I'm pregnant? I don't know.
It's tricky. But yeah, I think overall our outcome is that this is her shit to deal with.
Yeah. All right, next one is my partner has gained weight and I'm not feeling as attracted to them.
Okay, so we talked about this a little bit in our hygiene episode,
Yeah.
Because when we were planning that episode and getting feedback from our Instagram audience, a lot of people mentioned weight gain. And even after the episode, a lot of people wrote in and, kind of shared more details about their situation. And so we talked in that hygiene episode about how weight gain is a very complex, layered issue. It's not just this simple, it's not even a simple, like, weight gain is bad for you or weight gain is always something to be avoided. Like, there's so much nuance and gray area here. And so, I want to make sure that we're always really sensitive whenever we talk about weight issues, because we both take the perspective of health at every size. We think that there's a unbelievable amount of fat phobia and fat shaming in our culture, and we don't want to participate in that. So when it comes to weight gain, overall, like, my perspective is definitely, like, it is your own shit to deal with. You as the partner, not the person who is gaining or losing weight. Like, your partner doesn't owe you anything with their own body. They don't owe you their body looking a certain way or them doing certain things with their body. Like, that is their body. And so I think that if you are dealing with a loss of attraction because your partner has gained weight, that's work for you to do. Like, we all grow up in a fat phobic society. We all internalize those beliefs, and we need to do that internal work of, like, peeling those layers back and taking a look at our own internalized fat phobia. So, like I was saying a second ago, weight gain can mean a lot of different things. So I think there's a huge difference between, let's say somebody started taking a medication for their mental health and it caused them to gain weight. That's a particular kind of situation where I'm like, it's not your responsibility to lose weight for your partner to make them feel better. Like, you're dealing with your mental health. So there are a lot of reasons why weight gain happens, why weight gain is even necessary sometimes, or why it's just not even a bad thing. On the other hand, I do want to say, I know that there are some times where you might see your partner, maybe it's related to mental health too. Like you might see your partner really struggling to take care of themselves. They might be dealing with some, severe mental health issues, and they're having a hard time exercising, feeding their body nutritious foods, doing hygiene stuff. We talked a lot about that in that particular episode. And so I think it makes a lot of sense. Like if you see your partner struggling to treat their own body with love and care and compassion, then I think that's a situation where, again, it's not that it's your partner's responsibility to lose weight for you so that you can still be attractive to them. But I think it can be a great conversation between the two of you of like, hey, I love you and I want you to love yourself. And I see you struggling to take care of yourself. And I want to know, how can I be a supportive partner to you in you loving your body, treating yourself with kindness and care and respect? What's coming up for you? What's going on in your life? How can I be your teammate? So I think that could be a conversation. But again, the bottom line is that for me, it's not your partner's responsibility to lose weight or gain weight so that you can be attracted to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is, we don't have much context in the way this question was asked, but I'm pretty much all the time, this is your shit to deal with. You have your own insecurities, your own prejudices or judgments coming up around weight gain. And, I can speak from my own experience growing up. Like, yeah, you get all kinds of messages growing up, messages and judgments about weight. And those are just really buried deep within us. And so it's a huge opportunity for some personal work and just, personal reflection on what is it that I want to believe about this. And, on the flip side of that too, it's also like, just like your partner doesn't owe you to look a certain way or to be a certain weight. Like you don't owe your partner, like, I have to be with you for life. Like you get to make your own decisions about whether you are in a relationship or not. And so, I think you can set time for some reflection for yourself. Like, is there some kind of prejudice or judgment coming up within me that I can work on? And ultimately, if you are no longer attracted to someone after a long period of time, then like that's another decision that you have to make about how you proceed. But it's not your partner's responsibility to change themselves just for you.
Yeah, I guess it is any person's right to be able to end a relationship if they're not feeling attracted to a partner. I do think that is a pretty sad reason to end a relationship, simply because of weight gain. But I think it again can get into the nuanced area if, like, let's say your partner is having a really hard time taking care of themselves, treating themselves with kindness and respect. And again, I just want to be so clear that taking care of yourself doesn't mean losing weight or being super thin or only eating organic foods. Like you can take care of yourself and treat yourself with love in a lot of different ways, and your body can look a lot of different shapes. But I can see, like, Xander, if you were to completely stop taking care of yourself, your mental health is really suffering, you are refusing to get any sort of help, I'm trying everything I can to be a supportive partner to you, and this goes on for years or decades, I can understand getting to a point where it just feels like this is too hard to watch you do this to yourself. Yeah. And like, as much as I want to be there for you and support you and get you out of that, like, I know that I can't. It's not my responsibility. So
yeah, but you would never be like, oh, you gained 20 pounds, that's it, I'm out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Now I'm talking about like years or decades of you not taking care of yourself in any sort of way.
Yeah.
All right. That one was pretty heavy. So let's lighten it up. Why don't you read the next one?
All right. When I go number 2, speaking of the shit, everyone, when I go number 2, it doesn't always flush down everything. Am I responsible to stay and flush until it all goes down? Is this a real submission? Seriously? Who wrote this?
This one made me laugh so hard.
Who wrote this? Is this like someone on our team messing with us?
Okay, so whose shit is it? The person who wrote this or their partner?
It is absolutely the shitter's shit. It's absolutely the shitter's shit. Like, what do you think your responsibility is? My responsibility when I go to the bathroom is I hit that flush once and I close my eyes. I close the toilet. It's like if I don't see it, it's not there. Like, wiping my hands clean. No.
Yeah.
Just wait a second before you close the toilet lid. Because sometimes the toilet doesn't work all the way. The house that we're in right now, one of the bathrooms, like if you don't hold it for like 2 seconds exactly, like it doesn't quite flush. So, you know, like sometimes the toilet messes up. What if it gets clogged?
It's your shit.
It's like literally it's your shit.
Your shit.
Flush that shit
Flush
down.
that toilet down.
Even if it requires 2 or even 3 flushes or even a plunging.
It's your responsibility to get rid of that shit. Absolutely. We're in perfect agreement here, babe.
Yeah, should we name this podcast episode Flush That Shit?
Maybe.
Your shit or mine, and then in parentheses, just flush it.
Okay, let's get back into a more nuanced one. Okay, here's the next one. My husband gets very affected by my tone of voice. If I say something in a way that he deems too snippy or sharp, he can get really out of whack and he wants me to learn a lesson. And in little quotation marks here. That's just not how you talk to people. No one would like to be talked to that way. 99% of the time, I don't mean anything by it and have no negative intentions, so I get frustrated because to me, it's just the way I talk, sort of the way my whole family talks, and it feels hard to change. So we debate over whether I need to work harder on not using the tone of voice that he's sensitive to, or whether he needs to work on trying to assume the best of my intentions and be less sensitive to it.
Okay, this is a complicated one.
So whose shit is this?
This one is so tricky because there's a number. I can see it in a couple different ways. All right, the first thing I do want to say though, we may need to break this one down a little bit. So like when he says that's just not how you talk to people, no one would like to be talked to in that way. I want to say that's his shit. Like you can't tell your partner no one likes it when you do that. You can say I don't like it when you talk to me that way. It doesn't feel good when I hear you talk to me that way. Like you got to take responsibility for your own perception of it. It is absolutely his shit if he's trying to say nobody likes it when you do that.
And quick communication tip, when you and your partner are trying to have a conversation about something, bringing in these mysterious other people, like other people don't like that. Other people wouldn't put up with that. Other people don't like when you do that. Like it does not ever go well because it feels like it puts your partner super on the defensive. Now they feel like they're fighting all of these people that they don't even know. So only talk about your experience, and your experience in and of itself is valid. Like you don't have to bring in this army of other people who don't like it either. Like just say, I don't like that. What caught my attention about this one is right before they wrote out the quote is they say, my husband wants me to learn a lesson. That felt a little...
I mean, that's also... I mean, obviously this is a contentious issue between the two of them. And so, you know, this might be the person asking the question, like their interpretation of what's going on is like, he wants me to learn a lesson. We don't know. Is the partner saying like, I'm going to teach you a lesson?
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, if that's the case, if that's truly what the person is feeling like, that's some problematic. That is his shit of like, I have this need to tell people what to do. I have this need to be right.
Yeah. Okay. I have an answer for this one though.
Okay.
I think it's both of their shit.
Yeah.
I think they both have things to do here. So
I'm going to agree.
Yeah. The original person, yes, it is your responsibility to learn about how your tone and your delivery get interpreted by other people. So it's great that you understand like, hey, this is just the way that I talk. This is the way that I learned in my family. We all talk this way. That's totally fine. And you just need to recognize that not everybody is going to interpret that in the same way. And so it's not your job to like change yourself for every single person you interact with. But if you're talking about your husband, you know, somebody that you're spending your life with, it should matter to you that your husband is having a certain experience. And it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It does not mean that your tone is wrong and it needs to be changed. But it does mean that you guys should be looking at this as a team. And you're thinking, okay, to my husband, this is how it comes off. let me see if I can try to tweak my language or make it more clear or soften this, right? And in the same sort of way, your husband has to try to recognize that this just is who you are. You're not meaning anything by it. He does need to try to assume the best of intentions. So it's like both of you are right. You know, you're both having different experiences and both of those experiences are right and valid. Your experience is like, this is just me and I don't mean anything by it. And your husband is like, well, this is just me and this is how I interpret that. And those are both right. So you guys just need to work together as a team to validate each other's experiences. And if you both feel like you're making this effort to acknowledge, okay, here's a way that there's a little incompatibility between us. We come bumping up against each other in this way. So let's each make an effort to try to like flex a little bit and meet in the middle a little bit. I think that'll feel really good.
Yeah, I mean, what I would be really interested in to the person asking this question is, okay, so obviously you're getting this feedback from your husband. Do you ever have this experience outside of your husband, like out in the world where people maybe react differently to something that you say than the way that you think they normally would, or where people maybe are a little like get on the defensive or get shut down after you say something that you thought was just a very normal comment, and all of a sudden like someone is kind of like, oh, okay, and like walking away or something like that. Like, and that might be a sign that, you know, your husband may be onto something, that like you may have a tone or an energy that you're not aware of that is impacting other people in a way that's different from the way that you think that you are. And I think some people have that, like there's just, you have an energy about you that impacts people in a different way than you are intending to. And so like Vanessa was saying, that if that is something you are starting to notice, I'm not saying, oh, you got to go out and change that. You have to be a certain way for other people. But I think it's just, it's valuable to know, I feel like I'm doing things totally normal and totally calmly or whatever. I just need to be aware that oftentimes when I think I'm being normal and calm, other people may not perceive it that way. Yeah. And then I get to make a choice of, okay, am I going to adjust my delivery slightly? Or like, okay, I'm in a high stakes customer service situation. I need to be really sure that I'm being over the top in how polite I am or something, because I know that somebody might misinterpret what I'm saying. And then on the very flip side of that, if it's just your husband is the only person that's giving you that feedback, and you're maybe getting signs that he wants you to always be really docile or something like that, like then there may be some problematic shades here of he wants you to be a certain way. He wants to kind of maybe dominate you from but that's not the right word.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, that it could be a sign of something deeper going on either end. We're obviously just getting this tiny little snippet of it. But yeah, I mean, and the other thing I want to say too about this is that it can be really helpful when you talk about this from the perspective of being a team. So it doesn't even necessarily mean that either one of them has to completely change the way that they talk. It could be, so okay, this original person is saying sometimes they get too snippy or sharp. So it could be that they just spend a little bit more time trying to listen to their tone. And if they notice something, or maybe they notice their husband like making some sort of face or some sort of reaction, they could take a moment to say, that might have been my snippy tone right there, but just to let you know, I'm actually feeling totally calm. I'm not being snippy. So it's like, it's not that they're changing the way that they speak, but they're just taking that second to tag, like, that's that thing I do, but just as a reminder, I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm great right now. And similarly, the husband, if he's ever hearing his partner and like he's starting to get triggered or feel upset, he could take a second to check in and say, hey, I feel like I'm hearing a tone, but I'm not sure. Maybe that's the story that I'm making up in my head. How are you feeling right now? And actually, Xander and I do this sometimes. Like Xander will, Xander will say that to me sometimes. He'll say like, yeah, if I feel like I'm picking up on something, I just want to check in and see. And we use that language, like the story I'm telling myself is very often, because it makes it clear that like Xander's taking responsibility for his interpretation of it. And that gives me the opportunity to be like, like, oh my gosh, no, I'm sorry, I'm totally calm, or I'm not feeling that way, right?
Yeah, and I mean, and also for me, when I get excited, I can tend to raise the volume of my voice. And so, if it's just like a happy excitement, then that doesn't really cause any problems. But if Vanessa and I are talking about something not contentious, but like serious, perhaps, and I get excited about something, my tone, like my volume starts to increase. And, I never really realized that, especially because I'm a man, and I think like, men can get away with stuff like this more often, is, nobody ever, called that out in me. So if I ever notice the volume of my voice starting to go up, especially when I'm feeling that excitement, it's a good cue to me of just like, oh, okay, let me be aware of this volume. Let me see if I can dial it back a little, because Vanessa is likely not going to know what's going on in my head. And especially if it's not Vanessa, if it's someone else, I don't want to come off as overly aggressive, even if I feel like I'm totally calm.
Yeah. All right, let's go into the next one. I'm good friends with one of my exes. It's completely platonic and we've never crossed a boundary, but my partner describes herself as a jealous person. She's been cheated on in the past and she says she has a hard time trusting. She's gone so far as to ask me to end the friendship. I love her and she's a great person, but I don't feel good with her asking me to cut my ex out of my life. So, whose shit is this? The girlfriend, or let's call them the OP? Do you remember that from like,
oh God,
what was that about, like back in forum days, like online forums, the original poster?
Let's not do that. That's going to be too confusing. I was actually never like really in on that whole thing. So it's not like,
I'm just trying not to assume genders here. So I want to leave it open.
Okay. Well, I do know the gender
name
of the person whose shit I'm going to say it is. I'm going to say it's her shit.
Okay.
Because she described herself as a jealous person. I think that we have this idea somehow societally that, oh, if I'm a jealous person, then it's like okay for me to be a jealous person. Like it's just, that's just who I am.
Like we excuse
and therefore
it.
You need to change because I'm a jealous person. And I mean, I think she unknowingly has admitted that it's her shit in the way that she's described it.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think that this is her shit to deal with. And I want to empathize with her. I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying
yeah.
like you're a bad person because you are jealous. I think you already know what work you need to do.
Yeah. It's like,
and it sucks. It sucks because you have been betrayed.
Yeah, and both Xander and I have been cheated on. We know how painful of an experience that is. We know that it feels really hard to trust again after that. So I get it, and I really sympathize with that. And at the same time, like, we can't expect other people to change their behavior just because we've gone through something, been through our own like betrayal like that. So I think it's great to talk openly. I mean, I remember in the early stages of our relationship, like you and I both talked about being cheated on. Like that was the person who cheated on me was the last like really serious relationship.
Both of us had the exact same situation.
Yeah. And so we talked about that and we each shared, like kind of concerns, or not concerns, but like, worries or insecurities that came up for us. But I think we both took ownership over like, yeah, I went through some shit and I'm struggling with it a little bit. And yeah, we didn't expect the other person to change their behavior just to fit into this. And what the original question asker, the original person is like mentioning, like, this does sound very innocent. Like, yes, it's an ex, which of course, a lot of people feel jealousy just about exes, period, even if they're not in your life anymore. But it sounds like they're being really clear and saying, like, it's platonic. We've never crossed a boundary. Like, we're not doing anything that should make this, make the current girlfriend feel insecure or worried. Obviously, there are situations with exes that can be problematic, where maybe the ex wants you back, or they're being really flirtatious, they're crossing boundaries, like making the girlfriend uncomfortable. So that could be the situation, but it sounds like the way that this person is describing it is like, it's completely platonic. We've never crossed a boundary.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, to the person asking this question, like, it's totally fair to talk about what some reasonable boundaries could be, for your partner to feel better about about you being friends with your ex, but for it to be like, oh, the only way I'm going to feel okay with this is if you cut this person out of your life.
Yeah, that's
that
big
doesn't feel
ask.
That doesn't feel like a reasonable ask. But if it's like, I want you to tell me when you are going to go hang out alone with this person, or like, I don't want you to be like going out late at night with this person, or something like, there are probably some reasonable boundaries that you could discuss and maybe negotiate around this. It's not just an all or nothing. Like, nothing has ever happened, therefore it's like carte blanche to do whatever I want, and you need to deal with it.
I would do that on a case-by-case basis and as things come up. So maybe if the original person is like, oh, my ex and I want to go on a trip and we would be sharing a room and I'm not going to have cell service to check in with you. Like, yeah, maybe that would be a time to have a conversation. But I don't know if I would feel good about, okay, let's sit down and hammer out the boundaries right now of what you are and are not allowed to do with your ex. Like, that feels a little too controlling.
Yeah, maybe that's a little over the top. But I just think for the person asking the question, like, maybe you think about what have I been doing with my ex? Do these feel like totally reasonable things, or are there any things that I've been doing that if I put myself in my partner's shoes, I could see how maybe that feels a little weird, and just to be aware of your own behavior. That's all. Mm-hmm. All right, the next one is, my husband's parents are borderline homophobic and can often say rude comments to me. My husband doesn't like that they do this, but he won't step in and say anything.
Okay, I have my answer. Do you have yours?
I have my answer too.
Okay, I think that this is the husband's shit to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that, when it comes to in-laws can be tricky. Like, you and I are both very lucky that we haven't had to deal with like any super challenging in-law situations. But I totally understand that can be really tricky, and you can feel caught in between a rock and a hard place. I got that right.
Yeah.
I almost had two rocks and a hard place.
And that also, you would also not want to be caught between two rocks and a hard. I mean, that's even worse.
Like, if you have a situation where it's just, your partner doesn't get along with your parents, I can totally sympathize with feeling like, oh God, I don't want to have to take sides. I don't want to have to jump in. But in a situation like this, if your husband's parents are being rude to your partner, that is absolutely your responsibility to jump in and to set boundaries of what is acceptable and unacceptable to them. So I don't want to, read too much into this story because we only have this tiny little snippet of it. But I do know in the past when I've worked with gay couples, I've heard a lot of times people tell me it was such a long journey for me to come out to my parents, and they're like, okay with it, or they excommunicated me, but now I'm allowed back in the family. And I think a lot of times gay people are left with this feeling that they have to like settle for whatever scraps of a relationship they can have with their loved ones. But I think you and I would agree that that's a really sad thing. Like, we think it's really important for people to be loved and accepted for whatever gender orientation they are. Honestly, it's nobody else's business what you choose to do in your own bedroom. And I think that, parents should be unconditionally loving of their children. It should make absolutely no difference if whatever your child's orientation or identity are. And so I feel bad. Again, it's like, I don't want to read too much into this because I don't know what the story is with the husband coming out and how his parents felt about it and all of that. I feel bad for the husband that he's having to deal with parents who are borderline homophobic. And I feel bad for the other husband who's having to deal with in-laws who are borderline homophobic. But yeah, definitely in this kind of situation. And I think, honestly, whenever there's any sort of tension with in-laws, it's the person who's directly related to them. It is their responsibility to help navigate the situation. Like, I think it's messed up to say, oh, you're struggling with my parents. Like, sorry, you have to deal with that.
Yeah,
I'm not getting involved.
Yeah. Now, like, on the flip side, to the person asking this question, like, you can absolutely set your own boundaries with your in-laws as well. Like, like, we're not saying, oh, your husband needs to just completely deal with the situation. Like, you are always allowed to protect yourself and to set and enforce your own boundaries. But I think it is your husband's shit, and that, like, your husband needs to really support you in that. And, and I think, when you get married to someone, like, when it comes to sort of the hierarchy of needs or relationships. Like, I think that your spouse kind of has to supersede your parents when it comes to like, if we are talking about like protecting someone's dignity and basic levels of respect, like I think you got to side with your spouse.
That is a hot topic. We should put something on our Instagram account of like, yeah, what relationship do you think is most important? Is it your partner or is it your parents? That's a tough one. So we could do a whole episode just about that. But I think in this specific circumstance, it is the husband's shit to get his parents in line to say like, this is unacceptable behavior. We're not going to spend time around you if you act this way, or we will remove ourselves from the situation if you make comments like this in the future. Like, it's their responsibility to take a step up. But also to the original person who wrote this in, like Xander was saying, you can totally take care of yourself as well and say, you know what, I'm going to leave in this situation.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you are still going to have this conversation with your husband and say, hey, you got to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're telling you it's his shit. That doesn't mean that you just have to wait around for your husband to magically realize.
Play the podcast episode very loudly in front of him, and hopefully he will catch on. Okay, we've got our last shit to sift. Shit
to sift. That's a tough tongue twister. Shift to sit. Shit. No, shit to sift. I like shift to sit.
Shift to sit. Will you put it in your shed of tooth?
Yeah. Don't want no shit in my shed of tooth.
Are we sifting the shit or are we stirring the shit?
I don't know. This last one, I mean, I'm reading it. We might be stirring the shit here. Let's go. Let's go, babe.
Hot topic.
Why don't you?
Okay, here we go. Constant farting and burping. Normal bodily functions, but lack of manners. I love the way this one's written.
Are we sure that Vanessa didn't send this one in? Because it kind of sounds like she did.
I don't know.
Actually, if you had written this one, you would have written everything the same, except you would have said normal bodily functions, but rude.
I would have, yeah. Okay, so whose shit is it to deal with? Does a person who is constantly farting and burping need to stop constantly farting and burping? Or does their partner have to learn to deal with constant farts and burps?
I'm going to say it's both of their shit. I'm going to say that. There's the part of me because I burp and I fart.
A fair amount.
There's a part of me that would love to be like, oh, that's Vanessa's shit. She's just got to learn to deal with it. But what I will say is, I mean, there is a degree to which you can't help it. Mm-hmm. There's a degree to which maybe it is a health-related thing, a diet-related thing. Maybe there's some work that you could do on trying to decrease the amount of it.
We do have a family member who has health issues.
But on the flip side, it could also be a medical condition where it is totally, where there isn't anything you can do about it, or at least in the short term, there is nothing that you can do about it. And so, I think that there are many times when, as the burper or the farter, you could take some effort to silence it or quiet it. And sometimes there are times that you can't. So I think it's not like, oh, it's the farter's shit. Like, they just need to stop doing it.
It's the farter's shit.
I mean, I think both parties, like, there has to be an effort made on both parties. Like, for the person, asking the question, they got to realize, yep, my partner's going to burp and fart. I almost said they're going to shit sometime. They're going to burp.
That's true, too.
Yeah, I mean, all those things are going to happen. It is a normal bodily function, and sometimes they're not going to be able to control it. Maybe often they're not going to control it. And you got to learn to be okay with that. And it would really help if the person doing it was making an effort to conceal it sometimes.
Okay, be totally honest with me right now. Do you think you make an effort?
I do make an effort.
How much of an effort?
It's
From
a silent...
zero effort to 100 is like maximum effort. How much effort do you think you make to not fart and burp in front of me?
50.
That's so low. Okay, here's the problem. So I agree with what you're saying. Like, I want to make special care to call out like medical conditions because, we have a family member who cannot control their burping, and we don't want to shame people where it's like you're going through something that's not your fault. So that aside, I agree with you that there is like there's some amount of farting and burping that's just not controllable. It's a bodily function. We don't have perfect control of our bodies. Sometimes things squeeze out and we don't mean them to. We're even very embarrassed. We're ashamed that it happens. So I get that. And I do think that it is each of our responsibility to try to have a little decorum, try to have some manners, and try to make an effort to not fart and burp in front of another person. And I think where this gets tricky for me is
it maybe the immense effort that you put into it that is perhaps unnecessary?
I'm glad that you said 50% because that's low. And I do agree that it feels to me often that you're putting in a pretty low effort to not fart and burp in front of me. And I put in a superhuman effort, like 95%. I tried so hard.
Did anyone ask you to do that? Whose shit is that they are putting in a superhuman effort?
No, it's true. It's true. I think men and women get socialized around this differently. Women get socialized around like, oh, I don't poop, I don't fart, hee hee hee. And men, it's like, oh, it's just guys being guys. The guys just, they all just burp in front of each other. And like us women, we're not even supposed to like have those bodily functions. So I get that. And I took ownership over that. I have internalized a little bit of that belief that I'm supposed to be feminine and dainty and not do these things. But there is, for me, the majority of it is this sense of like thoughtfulness around another person. Like, yes, like farts are stinky and burps are stinky. And it's an unpleasant thing to be around a fart, And so I do make a big effort to, if I have to fart, like, and here's the thing too, is like, it's really not that hard. If I have to I'm getting so worked up and Xander's just like laughing at me.
Oh man, I wish we had this on video.
I can just walk into another room. It's not that hard.
Sometimes you don't have time to just walk into another room, especially with a burp.
Or like, give somebody a heads up, like clear the room. I couldn't help it,
Okay, I'm having a lot of really interesting ideas for how I can deal with this. I'm definitely going to have Vanessa clear the room more often. That's going to be annoying. And I'm also going to share more about, oh man, I just held in the biggest fart.
Sure. I would love to know that you're making an effort because some days it feels like you're making like 5%.
Or what I'll do is be like, oh, I just let out such a silent fart. Aren't you proud of me, babe?
Not if it smells, not if it's a silent but deadly.
Oh my God. So you want my farts to not smell too now?
No, it's fine if your farts smell. That farts smell. They just do smell. That's okay. But like, I would love for you to make an effort to leave the room.
And then just rip it.
Give me go to the bathroom and rip it as much as you want. Close the door, rip it as much as you want.
We do have an arrangement in this house. It is my right to fart as much or as loud as I want in the bathroom.
Yep.
And Vanessa, even the funny thing is, she even kind of enjoys when she hears me have a really loud fart in the bathroom. She's like, like props to you. You're doing it in place. I told you can do it. She's like, oh, you're just farting away in there.
I enjoy is maybe too strong of a word, but yes, you are allowed to go in the bathroom, do whatever do your heart's content in the bathroom. But yeah, I do think that it's like yes, we've been together forever. Yes, we're comfortable with each other. And for some couples, this may not bother them at all. And that's totally fine. If it doesn't bother you, if you think it's funny, go for it.
Yeah, in another lifetime, I'd have a wife who is into my farts, In the next life, we'll see what that's like.
I'm so sorry.
We'll get Vanessa 2.0.
Now you're going to get
the fart version.
This will be my jealousy going. I'm so jealous of your hypothetical other wife who enjoys your farts.
Oh, yeah. I know, like, in the last episode, we talked about comparing people. That's maybe the one thing I do compare, like someone else who talks about, oh, yeah, like we fart in front of each other. I'm like, oh, yeah, I wish Vanessa would do that. Oh, God. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
That gross voice. That was creepy.
Don't. That's the gross farter voice.
All right. Well, that wraps up our episode on is this your shit or mine? We had a lot of other examples. So if you liked this topic, come on over to Instagram. We're at Vanessa Marin Therapy. Let us know
if you want us to do part 2.
Yeah. Let us know if you have an example that you want to share. Come hit us up over there.
Well, that's all for today's episode of Pillow Talks. Thank you so much for listening to our shit. Join us again next week when we talk about the sex act that you should be doing that you probably aren't.
Oh, well, teaser there.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna have to listen. See you next week.